Well, an estimated 8 million people have registered to vote ahead of Zambia's presidential and parliamentary elections on Thursday. Following a painful debt restructuring and a series of promised economic reforms, many Zambians are still asking whether the benefits are reaching ordinary households. Rising living costs, unemployment and limited job opportunities remain major concerns on the campaign trail, even as the government points at progress in stabilizing the economy. But the final days of campaigning have also been overshadowed by growing political tensions. Monitors have recorded dozens of incidents of violence, including clashes at rallies, police using tear gas against opposition gatherings, and at least 2 deaths earlier in the campaign period. Now, opposition leaders have accused security forces of bias, whilst the government and President Hakainde Hichilema have called for calm and condemned all forms of political violence. Well, as voters prepare to cast their ballots, economic pressures and concerns over political tensions are shaping the final stretch of a closely watched election. Now, the BBC's Jonah Buyoya tells us more.
Calm and stable, Zambia's capital, Lusaka, is certainly not a quiet city. On August 13, Zambians vote to renew the parliament and their president. The incumbent leader, Hakainde Hichilema, is bidding for a second term. But in recent weeks, a challenger has gained momentum in the polls. Brian Mundubile, a former minister and ally of the previous president, the late Edgar Lungu, has gained popularity. Many thought this upcoming vote would give Hichilema a fairly easy win. In the last elections 5 years ago, he received a solid mandate, and recently, one of his main challengers, former President Edgar Lungu, died. But many things have changed in Zambia over the past 5 years. The rising cost of living and an energy crisis, which only recently has started to improve thanks to electricity imports, are top issues among voters. The government boasts among its biggest achievements the introduction of free primary and secondary education, the hiring of thousands of new teachers and health workers, and the successful restructuring of the country's high debt.
We inherited a broken down country. We were in debt, distressed, defaulted on our obligations to pay our debt. The economy was declining, so we restructured the debt. A clear saving of $1.9 billion per year. And that's the money we're putting in the economy.
Yet, some Zambians say they're yet to reap the benefits of these measures.
I sell street food as my work, but now money has become so hard to come by. It's really difficult to get some money. We are trying to stay strong to survive, but things have become really hard for us.
It's not that the money that we are getting paid, it's enough. We can sustain our lives.
Meanwhile, the opposition are campaigning hard. In a country with more than 75% of the people under the age of 30, they've set their eyes on the youth.
We are moving the women and the youth from the margins to the center of policy and economic transformation. We believe the youths have solutions to most of their challenges. So we are positioning ourselves, I'm positioning myself as president, as big brother to the youths.
But some older voters distrust Mundubile's party, as it has links with the previous government that faced corruption accusations.
I wouldn't love to see them come back in the first place, because we gave them chance to rule the country and we saw what they did.
Observers say the previous elections were fair, but some experts are now concerned about the impartiality of some members of the Electoral Commission tasked with overseeing the vote.
In terms of the constitution of the Electoral Commission itself, a number of the members of the Commission are actually politically aligned to the incumbent UPND party and are not seen to be independent.
This election will test whether the changes in the last 5 years have been enough for the ordinary Zambians, or if they'd like to see a different direction.
Dingindaba, Jonah Buyoya, BBC News.
Well, for more on this, I earlier spoke to Ruth Kangwa-Ndlovu, an African Union Youth Ambassador for Peace in Southern Africa, and Gregory Chisha, a youth leader both from Zambia. They highlighted some of the key concerns facing young Zambians ahead of Thursday's vote.
The first important thing that young people are looking at is the high cost of living. The cost of living has been very, very high for the average of, majority of Zambians, and the young people have not been spared. The cost of basic, commodities has skyrocketed, making it very, very hard for the young people to, manage the harsh realities of this economy. The second, big issue is, the high unemployment rate with regards to the youths. It remains very high, and I think that in itself is a very big thing for the young people. Thirdly, we are looking at, the suppressive laws and also, the rights and freedoms of the citizens that have been trampled upon by the current, government.
What do you think will determine how young people will approach the election this time around? What issues are they concerned about? And do you think the current government has tried to address them?
One of the most significant things about this 13th August election for Zambia is actually young people protecting things. And what we want to see and are most excited about, particularly because I was tasked last year, end of last year, 2025, to sit on the Technical Reform Committee to represent the voices of the youth. We're now seeing 62 years later, a mixed member proportional electoral system. We actually want to see what this will look like. 15 guaranteed seats for youth in parliament, 20 for women, 5 with persons with disability. But the election doesn't end on election day. And we also want us to actually see the promises that have been made. We want to see them protected and strengthened.
Gregory, how concerned are you about political violence? And could it hinder young people from voting?
What we have witnessed the past 1 month is continued, political attacks towards us. Our convoys have been stormed at by suspected cadres from the ruling party. With the recent incident which happened in Western Province of Zambia, I must confess that to some extent such incidences have instilled fear in candidates as well as young candidates that are participating in this election. And I wish to appeal to my fellow young people across the country that may we never be used as tools of violence. We only have one Zambia, and after this election, life must continue and life must come back to normal.
I think my critical message, ideally, is that the civic space has to remain protected. It has to ensure that the freedom of assembly, the freedom of association, peaceful assembly thereof and the association are not privileges of either the opposition party or the ruling party. They are the democratic rights of each and every citizen. And my key message as we go out and vote in the next 2 days is we only have one Zambia at the end of the day.